Okay.
All right, so call to order, meeting of whatever day it is, May 3rd. But if we'd like to stand for the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty or justice for all. At least we were able to do it, unlike the planning board last night. They kind of missed a step.
Hopefully they stay visible.
They didn't actually put it in, so it's all good. All right, so start with approval of the minutes from April 6th. Who had a comment?
So I had a comment that we should specifically note that we discussed and approved the comments on the zoning code, subject to the comments made at the meeting. That because that was a specific ask from the various boards that we agree on it as, and this will document that we in fact agreed on it.
So what I wrote was discussion on the draft comments that were to be submitted on the zoning codes included clarification to the ridgeline protection. Inclusion to either include specific restrictions for solar and part of the code or just particular verbiage for those obstructing the ridgeline. All present agreed this needed to be addressed and added. Further draft comments were discussed and approved, those comments subject to the changes at the meeting.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, and then the other one that I changed was the ethics committee was led by the ethics committee member Maura Allen and members Amy Woods and Pam Scott were present.
Which is true. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay. Any other comments, corrections, or? Yes, you're right, you weren't here. We missed you. Motion to approve. Howard, second. Pam, all in favor? Aye. Good. All right. And just to have a brief NRI update, I will continue to forward you guys all sorts of information as it comes. It's coming along very nicely. The mapping seems to be coming along. The village seems to be doing way better than the town at this point, but we're okay with that because we're a little behind in our stuff. Well, no, the village has less to do than the town portion of this. Oh, wait a minute, that's right, they do.
The NRA, a lot of the mapping is just not at a scale where
No.
there's a lot of, they're Canadian village.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's good. It's all good. We're getting to a good point. So it's stage. We will. I'm going to let Leslie in. Sorry. So, Howard, you can start with the update on the.
Update what?
She didn't finish that.
You can do the planning board and the ZBA. I'm trying to get Leslie in.
All right, when she gets back, but there's also the town. Interesting.
There she is.
Because we do man-made and natural environment, that one affects the other. So let's start with the town. The town is in the process of doing, as you all know, the new comprehensive plan and so on. And they had original recommendations from Nan as to what to do with hospitality and where to put it. And her recommendation was that you start with the Pleasant Valley one, the Cottonwood Inn. And she wrote in the report, start that first, see where it winds up, and then if something goes well, then let's look a little further. And that was her recommendation, the consultant. The town, in between that and the next meeting, changed that and put in a second place on their own, as far as I can tell at least, because I can't find any records of how that happens. They added the Bennett College section between the monument and the traffic light as a second hospitality zone. And that was not what the Comprehensive Plan Committee recommended.
You mean to build something?
Yes, the recommendation from Nan, the consultant, was that you start with hospitality at the Cottonwood Inn location, which seemed to be a logical place to start. It's already pretty much in place, and it's near another town, and it's near a highway. And if that works out well, then look a little further. But don't rush into everything all at once, because then you'll have hospitality all over the place, and it may fail. But someplace between that recommendation, I think, and the next meeting, the town, wrote a whole new section into that code, as far as I can tell, on their own. And they have the power to do that, I assume, and they put that by the Bennett College area, by the traffic lights.
Wait, Howard,
So-
actually, sorry, it's Leslie. I just wanted to interrupt that summary a little bit. That's not exactly
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, that was the recommendation and write-up from Nan, based on the report and the findings of the report, that we would start with 2 different hospitality zones. One where the Cottonwood is in Washington Hollow, and the second right outside the village. Right outside the village, I should tell you, it was the second place people wanted hospitality. Washington Hollow was third. So there is as you know, someone who owns the Cottonwood that wants to make it into a hotel. There's also someone who's in contract to purchase Ramble Hill, the former Daytop, to close in a month. So that was being done prior to that. It had nothing to do with that. We didn't actually even outline what it means outside the village, from what I understand yet. Margaret could probably speak to that more clearly, but the town board didn't arbitrarily write new guidelines or new report. It was, Nan did that as a result of the findings of the CPRC's report.
Hey, Elizabeth. So what Howard is referring to in the hospitality report, it has the bullet point here is, it is recommended that the town implement these overlays in a phased approach, with an overlay first in the Washington Hollow area, followed by initiating coordination with the village of Millbrook, see recommendation 1B, to identify the second area if desired. That's what he's referring to.
Yes.
Which is the around the village, but
Right,
that
and
is technically in that document as
met-
phase 2.
Yes, but we have met with the village. So that, I think that box has been checked as far as the town is concerned. The village has its own zoning, as you know, inside the village, and we have no jurisdiction to legislate there. So we're talking about the area outside. The other thing that I'll mention is that even though there are owners of the Cottonwood, it doesn't mean that project is moving forward at any particular time soon. So it might move forward right away, but I don't know if we can anticipate that. We're just looking at trying to legislate areas where the people want hospitality, to open up hospitality to our area. And so that was Nan's recommendation and how she wrote it after we did talk to the village, and the village has its own, its own government, and actually the village's zoning already allows for a 20-room inn in the village. Not that there's a place that's identified that would be a place where one could have one at this state. I mean, I guess there are some buildings, but there's no plans for that at this time.
Right.
Well, all I was saying is that what happened, I'm reporting back what happened at the meeting, that's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
And that appeared to happen intra-meeting. There was no mention of that at the previous meeting, and the next meeting it said, oh, Jeff Battistoni had worked with this, and he made these changes, and he put it in a separate appendix, and that there was no public meeting that I know of where that was said we would do that. So that's a change, and it's an environmental change. Anything that you do with buildings and stuff like that is environmental in the long run. And that's my report on what happened with the town. The other thing that happened with the town is along the same lines. Apparently, Mike Murphy is working on the Airbnb's regulations for that. And he announced, if I understood it correctly, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, that he has a committee that he's put together to work on that. There was, as far as I know, there was no mention of a committee being formed and no public outreach to anybody who wants to be on that committee. So I don't know where that is.
There
I asked
wasn't.
Mary Alex if she could,
Yeah, Howard, there was a committee. It was Richard Phillips, Bob Audia, and Mike. and it's been, they had, their meetings were posted. Sorry, I have puppies tearing something up in my kitchen. So they did have, and they actually went to all of the different state meetings on the subject. So their proposed policies around that are not arbitrary. They're based on recommended best practices by the state with towns that are trying to address short-term rentals. So just background on that. I don't know. I can't speak to it being open or people being asked to join. I don't think that that's required for the town to do, but Mike put together his committee, Richard's on the planning board. And so, and he expressed an interest, I think, following one of the board meetings where Mike said that he was going to put together a committee, if that information's helpful.
It's normally past practice, as long as I've been around, for them to do that. They don't have to take you, but it's normally the way this is operated. So other people would be aware of this and they wanted to try for it, and town said, no, we don't want you. But this one seems a little clandestine to me, in my opinion. So I never found any reference to that. And so trying to find out how it was done, and now you're explaining that Mike selected 2 people to be on that committee. And it still hasn't, as far as I know, that hasn't been made public to the town as a whole, that this committee exists and that you could try to be on it if you wanted to. And that's the way the comprehensive plan.
I know that the village has its own. Yeah, the village, I think, has its own rules around it. They got their own committee together on it. And Mike has talked about it at each meeting and who's on it. So I can't speak to the former practice of, them making it public or looking for volunteers. But I do know with other task forces, like Margaret and I are doing the joint NRI task force, and we asked people, we didn't, well, I'm sure we asked everybody sitting around the table but I don't think so I just think, again, I believe Richard expressed an interest after a meeting and that's how that took place. I can just say that I don't think it was intended to be secretive or exclusive in any way. And if anyone's interested, I'm sure if we reached out to Mike, he would be happy to include you in the conversation.
Well, you could say no, but my point was I go to all the meetings, as you know, and I've been doing that for years, and I was unaware that this existed. There's no
Good
record
news
of
is
it
now you
anywhere.
know. I think it's good now you know. And we all know. Right?
So that's all I'm saying, and I'm not saying anything further than that.
All right. Anything else to do with the town board before we go to the planning board?
No, that's all I have.
All right. Well, you're the one reporting.
You told me not to go into any great detail, so
Okay. Yeah, that's
they had their minutes. I still can't find their minutes on the website in a timely manner. And everybody else posts their minutes and their agendas, and it's a little more frequently. And
I don't know. I thought their minutes were up from the last meeting already.
Who posts them?
Mary posts them, I think. So,
all right. Anyway, as you said, there was more.
Yeah.
I can't find that, and I'm familiar with ahead of time. I can't find the agendas and
that's
so on.
okay.
All right. Now, the next in line, I think, would be probably the planning ZBA.
ZBA, all right.
I want to do that one next because the ZBA has really nothing much for us. Just want to get it out of the way. The Alexander, that's her, and the Vol, her name. They were on, and the planning board, the ZBA rather, approved them and gave them a variance. It's an area. There's no. They did look at the wetland. The wetland is outside the boundary, so that was okay. It's a 5-acre zone, and he is in that 5-acre zone with a house. So he's not non-conforming because he has a 5-acre lot and a house, and that's conforming for that zone. But the area variance was quite extensive. It was 300 times the 25% limit. And not me, I said nothing, but they commented on it at the time that this is a very large area variance. And the reason I bring this up is there's some question about that 391 section still, which the town says you can do this and says you do this, and it says up to your discretion. So they're, if I understand it correctly, they're modifying their own operating instructions up by themselves, if that's what happens. And we simply want that section looked at a little more closely to clarify what that 391 section actually is saying. So that's that's the other thing that happened. And then there is, again, it doesn't affect us, but just very briefly, there's the swimming pool property. And I think they approved it, and now the attorney for one of the neighbors has filed an appeal. And so that's on hold at the moment.
All right.
And I believe that's all that occurred there.
All righty. And then on to planning board.
Planning board is rather interesting. Okay. What's happened with the planning board, let me get my planning board notes up front here, is, excuse me, small delay,
Getting to
very disorganized. Upton Lake is the only thing that really applies to us from the planning board. The rest of the things are there, but they don't apply to us in particular. The Upton Lake property has gone to the ZBA first. The ZBA finally determined that they can't get their variances granted until the planning board decides what's going on with the property. So that that engineer has been going to probably more meetings than anybody I've ever seen. And so a lot of them was taking on going to the ZBA to get the roof raised. He wants a higher roof. The planning board has finally decided officially that his property needs to have a wetland permit, which brings it to us. Before that, there was talk of a wetland permit for him, but they never declared that he needs a wetland permit till that last meeting, so now we today have a wetland permit in front of us, and obviously we can't do the entire wetland permit. And now, as past practice would go, we would discuss it today and then put together something for our next meeting and then send it back to the planning board. We could say, oh, we found everything in perfect order, or we decided that we'd like to look at this a little bit, and then the planning board would discuss that with the applicant. They'd like to hurry this up a little bit, and I'm saying to them, the only way we could do that is if we, the CAC, are willing to meet interim between the two meetings, and that we could discuss it today, decide what we'd like to do, and then have another meeting officially to put together what we discussed today and send it on. And some of you may remember the Rennet woman with the pool. We did that, and she didn't come.
They're going to come back though, Howard. Upton Lake is coming back.
So all I'm saying is that we can't turn in I tried to explain that to them, that we can't just now turn in a report, because as I said, it's a wetland report, and we meet right after them. We can't just give them a finished report today, because there's a lot going on there.
Right. So did everyone get the email with the wetlands permit on it? And I apologize that I didn't get it to you sooner, because I tried to forward it. I think what happened is I was in a location with my phone that wouldn't send the attachment. And I said, oh, I'll send it when I'm home, and I don't think I did. So I apologize.
So when did you send it?
On the 14th. It was April 14th is when the original went out.
Okay.
And I apologize.
It went
I'm
out,
sure I was
have
in
a
a
copy.
meeting. Yeah, no, you have a copy.
It went out, she's corrected.
Okay. So Howard and I are copied on all of the stuff, which is why I forwarded it to you. And we could ask them for wetlands permits to copy us all at the same time so that I don't actually mistakenly not send it to everyone else. We will review this permit tonight and make comments and write a letter so that we can give it to them by the 23rd. And I think it should be acceptable for us all to comment back on the letter that we write in plenty of time to give it to them, because they have to have it 2 weeks before the next meeting. Because we will never, in the future, meet the criteria of what has to happen each time. We have to have a new policy of the way we do it, unfortunately.
Well, and technically, as I told them last night when this came up, technically, you have to have a meeting to do something. You can't do, this is Jeff Battistoni talking a while back. You just can't do something on the phone, for example.
Right, but we're having a meeting now to do it. I don't think we have to have another meeting to approve the final product.
That makes sense.
But there are some issues with that project.
So maybe we discuss it tonight and then the
Yeah.
letter goes out and everybody comments on it. Does that work?
No, that's the problem. That's the
Okay.
technicality part. Not
what's
that I
that?
have anything personally against that,
Okay.
but that's the technicality as far as I understand it, that you have to pass these things at a meeting, according to the open meetings law.
So, hold on a second. Did y'all always pass the letters that you sent in at a meeting? Or did you do the letter and then email it?
We always, David will back me up one way or another. As far as I recall, we always passed these things at a meeting and then sent it on to them.
That's what I remember.
Well, then why don't we, can we do a virtual meeting? Can we just do a Zoom meeting where we discuss
That's the
it?
problem that, has not come up yet. The problem normally is you have to have a meeting with a quorum.
Right, I understand.
Yeah,
Can
we
we have
have
a
a
quorum with the Zoom
Zoom.
meeting?
No,
Did the
We
town?
can't?
I
Yeah, we
don't think
can.
that's been passed yet.
Leslie,
Les-
I'm gonna, can you pop on again for a second? If you're not hiding?
Leslie! I'll text her.
I had to turn it
No.
around.
She
Um,
can
Get my
never,
mute off.
she can never. So Leslie, did
The
the
question
town?
is whether you can have a Zoom meeting?
Yeah,
For a quorum.
for a quorum, did the town pass that resolution?
No, but it's interesting.
Just
The
kill
law
it.
there is evolving where,
Hmm.
let me just think about this. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have a meeting. You can have a meeting, but you can't have a meeting where you vote on something, remotely.
Okay, well, so then maybe we can do this. Maybe we can do the whole letter via email, and then we can get a quorum to come into this room
Sign it.
for 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's correct.
That's,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
that's the thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure. Yeah,
thank
you absolutely
Leslie.
can do that. You can exchange emails and discuss and everything,
Yeah.
and then. Sorry, we are
Do
going to
we-
have that on the agenda, I
But
believe, for the next meeting. Or no, I'm sorry. There's a public hearing on that subject at the town board meeting next Thursday, the 11th. And so
Okay,
I guess
that's when
this is
it
a
is.
great example of where there might be those circumstances where you need to do that via Zoom. And I encourage anyone, if they feel that that's something they want to speak about, to voice your opinion on that, either in person or by Zoom at next week's meeting.
So I only wonder, as we are not a board and only a committee or a commission, that if it even applies to us.
It does. We asked that question to
Oh.
Jeff. So Jeff said, you know,
That darn
Jeff,
Jeff.
that we set the tone for the rest of the committees. It was like last night at the planning board, there was a
All right.
planning board member that was
Yeah.
on Zoom and voted. And, it wasn't something
Right.
that was controversial or required. So had it been something that his vote would have, I might have said something, but we just need to make that
So
clear
here's-
to each board.
Exactly.
And of course, it's been evolving. It's changed, I should say, since COVID.
Yeah.
The governor kept changing the rules around it. So,
And so here's the next
anyway,
part of that. If we do have a mini meeting, do we have to make it known to the public and invite the public? So that's a
No.
whole nother, you know,
No, she said
We're
no.
not a voting board, so you do not have to make it public to the
there we go.
public
So
if you
then we're
don't want
going.
to.
So this is what's gonna happen. Margaret's gonna invite all of us to her house for cookies.
Right.
So we can
So
then
here's-
have our mini meeting.
So here's the next
And
comment,
actually,
even though,
actually to that point, that's actually making me think about the fact that maybe you wouldn't have to have, it's only, I mean, I know that Jeff had said to the town board that town boards
I'll find out.
appointed boards would be subject to the same, whatever we decide would then become the policy for those two boards. Actually, I take that back. Whatever we decided would give the chair of those boards the flexibility to decide what they wanted to do with their own boards.
That's what
So,
yeah.
Margaret, it's worth me, just so people don't have to come in, just emailing Jeff, asking the question, and then we
Yes.
can, then you guys can take it from there.
Yes. If you could do that, that would be great,
Sure.
because, then we'll get that clarified quicker. And what's going to happen is maybe, because I'm actually away until the 23rd, so I highly doubt that we can get this done, coordinate for me to have a mini meeting. Even though you might have a quorum without me, you could do it without me. I have no problem with that. But if not, no, I can't do it that day anyway. I was going to say the 24th, because the day after I come back, we can do it, but.
Well, let me first, before you decide, I mean, Margaret, I do think if you're comfortable with it, whatever language they're having, and it's just the formality of having to have the vote,
Yeah.
I think you can do all of that work in
Yes.
advance. But let me confirm that. Let me just check in with Jeff, because this may not be something that applies to you all to begin with, and then you have more flexibility in how you want to move forward.
That's perfect. I've been trying to actually get that clarified with them, so that's perfect.
We're listed as town government. I don't know if
Correct.
that's a technical
I don't
point or
think,
not.
I don't think we're going to get away with it, but I've been trying. All right, so now to the wetlands permit.
Okay, this is what we saw last time, and then we had Pam do a very good job, by the way. I'm not complimenting, I'm just saying a very good job of putting together all of the recommendations and so on. And one of our recommendations dealt with the wetlands law on 396 on feasibility. The original one said cannot do this, and the new one said no feasible alternative is available.
That would be our recommendation.
Yes. So based on that, here's the map again, which you probably all saw last time. It comes down to, he designed a project that is partly in. I was going to turn it around the other way so everybody can see. Marvin, I think, is more familiar with it, right? You have her yellow button.
Yeah, you got my yellow line.
On there. This is, he made this up. It's not that it existed already. This is his design over here. And he's put in stuff in the wetlands buffer. It's sort of like the guy that said, I have to have this here so I can see the rock. You don't remember that guy? So he's made it on his own. Nobody forced him to do this.
Is any of the existing in there already? Because they do have parking in here.
Yeah, they have 30 spots there.
But is it in this existing wetlands already? Do we have that map? Yeah, because I remember there being something said about
That's
that.
Steve Marino's response.
Yeah, and of course I don't even.
I do have it.
Yeah, could you pull that up? Because that was one thing I didn't.
I don't remember, that's a good point, but I don't remember this being, I think this is new.
Well, this draw up isn't it? But I
That's
think,
the only spot that we're concerned about.
but I think that there's existing parking in this area, just not like this.
Yes, there is existing parking, I'm sure there is, it's a school,
Yeah,
they have to park somewhere.
yeah.
But this is going from a 30-unit school to a 90-unit school.
Mm-hmm,
So things have been added to adjust to that.
mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying, he should try and design something to take a little bit of this out of the wetlands.
Oh, yeah, we were discussing that last time. I remember this.
Yeah,
Where's the stream?
the stream is
Why do I not see it?
back.
Look on the legend.
Is this, what is this? This is it right here, right? Is this the, Because here's the bridge, right? Is this the stream? Marking it somehow?
I can't see that well, even with my glasses.
I'm trying to find the legends, though. I don't see anything that says.
It says the proposal involves, this is Steve's
Yep.
Marinos. The proposal involves the removal of existing facilities and structures that are within the 100-foot regulated area to a town regulated watercourse and the expansion and reconfiguration of an existing parking lot with associated drainage improvements. I
Yeah.
delineated the edge of the watercourse on March 23rd. And activity flags are accurate. The expansion of the existing parking lot into the watercourse buffer on the east side of the stream with the installation of a subsurface infiltration system and the demolition of an existing school building and associated impervious surfaces. That includes the abandonment of an existing septic system that's also within the 100-foot buffer.
This is the stream.
And the new septic field would be further away. And then he goes on longer, but it sounds like it's not clear, but from the wording of this, it sounds like this septic system is currently in the buffer. It's not clear that parking is.
Well, this is the line.
That's the new parking.
That's the new parking. We were discussing the old parking.
Oh, the old part.
Yeah, so we don't
Well,
really know, without seeing another map, where the old was. We don't have an older map.
Didn't we
do
have the old map last time?
I thought we did.
Yeah, we did.
Do you have an old
We did.
map, Howard?
Well, I think I have the same map again. It's smaller form.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and there's also a red line drawn by our
Yeah.
chairperson here.
Can I draw that one?
Yes, you did.
I'm a line drawer.
You sneaky devil.
I draw the line. So, in the application, it says
And this one
basically the
says
same
new
thing.
Proposed playground area.
So it's basically us giving our opinion now, even though, other opinions are in. That last night at the planning board meeting, they said that they were going to write that there will be plantings. Is it 10 foot next to, up to 10 foot and no mowing there?
This is typical Steve Marino. Improve the application somewhere by putting some planting somewhere.
Right.
And I think he said this time to put the planting by the stream.
Because right now they have, they mow the grass up to the stream.
Yeah, so
So they're saying no mow up until 10 foot of it, I believe, plus some plantings. That will be an improvement to the wetlands.
see, I personally think an improvement to the wetlands is not to build in it in the first place.
Well, yes, there's that.
So, and the fact that you're going to put something by a stream is nice, but better still would be to look for other places to put things first before you go into the wetlands.
I agree.
Because this is not the only time this is going to happen.
Continuously at this point.
So I would like to suggest that we recommend that they follow what Pam wrote, basically, and they say that there is no feasible alternative. And I think there are feasible, this is me now, I think there are feasible alternatives if they try to reconfigure their drawing, where they can do that. And
We talked about it last meeting, but it looked like there were other obvious places to put parking.
Yeah.
Correct.
I
mean, it's-
without doing too much damage.
I agree.
To the overall design.
because that's typically what happens. We've been through this several times with wetland permits of sorts or applications. The person who submits this says, I want this is my dream or whatever, and then they put it together that way. And then they say, there's no other place where I can have my dream physically, but that's what I want. But that's not what wetland permit is for. It's not to make an exception for everything a person wants.
Right.
It's to look at what's best for the town.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially when it seems like there is an easy way to accomplish the alternate. Have they explained why? Well, we can get into that in our comments, I guess, right? This is going to be the whole point.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's basically
That's
what
The point of our.
we're going to say, that we believe that the application, and I believe Richard Phillips had been talking to him about that at a couple of the meetings, He's saying, you have to put it outside the boundaries, otherwise we're not going to approve you. I'm paraphrasing him, but he made that point several times with him at other meetings. That you need to look for other places to put some of this outside the boundary. And I think that's what we're going to say, I think. You know, the same thing, in keeping with no feasible alternative. And
Makes
that,
sense.
And so so we want to have a draft together by what date?
there's not much to say, basically.
Yeah, I mean.
No,
it-
but
it
we still
could
got to
be-
draft it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's
well, the draft, you know,
at any point.
the draft would be based on this meeting. That would allow it to be an official recommendation, and then we would just be putting words to it. And then comes the technical part. You know, when do we approve the words that we put together? Because that's still not quite clear. If we can do it by Zoom, or we could.
That we're not worried about right yet.
Well,
We're gonna get
that's the
the-
only thing that would be left, as far as I
Yeah,
can
we're
tell.
just gonna draft the letter.
Unless
So
anybody has other suggestions.
The letter needs to be drafted within a week, and then within a week, we need to decide
Okay.
when we can meet again. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Good to me.
Good, all right. Who wants to help draft the letter?
I think that's my job.
It's gonna be you, Pam, I didn't even want to say anything,
Okay.
and I apologize.
Thank you.
I know, thank you, I
So I'm
apologize.
going to Florida on May 9 to see
Okay.
my mother on Tuesday. So I have to get a draft out before I go. That's my goal.
Okay,
And I'll have
that's
my
beautiful.
computer with me, and so I can take comments while I'm in Florida.
Perfect,
I'm
thank
only
you.
going for a couple days. I'll be
Okay.
back on Friday.
All right.
Going down Tuesday, coming back Friday.
All right, I leave on Wednesday, so that's perfect. So we'll try to get this before both of us leave, and then I will be in contact with everyone.
So where are you in a different time zone? England?
Spain,
Spain.
Oh, God.
sorry. Okay, so
Don't
anyway.
apologize. Have fun,
I
man.
know, I'm sorry, I have to go away.
Drink a little-
I'm actually
do a
doing
little
nothing.
flamenco for
I'm
me,
doing
baby.
nothing. I'm doing nothing. I have
Good,
rest and relaxation is my goal.
good.
So we'll do that, and then, I mean, in all fairness, if you do it at the right time of the day, I might be able to zoom in.
So really the only thing I need to look at is the April 14 material?
Yes, which
And I'll
I,
skim through the rest of it to make sure I'm not, it's just there was so many on this thing.
feel free to have my
And the
copy.
Merino letter came through. in
Yeah, and the
second,
merino, I don't know
which-
why,
I don't know.
I don't know why,
It said
And I
include
forwarded
reference to
that, right?
Right, yeah, that
Yeah.
came through too.
And are the maps in my emails too?
I think so.
you should be able to
Okay.
find those maps,
All
yes.
right, then. Thank you.
All right,
If not, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have it somewhere.
all right.
Send it to you.
So do you have anything else for the planning board before we move on?
I don't think so. I think the thing we had to do was this,
So we did it,
and we're good on that.
good. All right, so we,
Well,
what?
The Dutchess Day School. Wasn't that the
Oh, yeah,
school
you had
from-
two things.
okay, very briefly, they don't apply to
Okay,
us.
fine.
The Dutchess Day School is basically a house that they bought, and they're gonna have somebody move in. I'm
The
not sure,
headmaster and his wife.
I'm not sure why they needed a permit for that. Maybe it's a non-conforming lot or
Listed as
something.
Educational, it's listed as an educational facility.
Because they're
it's
gonna
associated with
have
the
other
school.
stuff
They're
there
gonna
besides.
So that's, all right, so if the person works for the school to start with, why do they have to?
Because the school bought the house.
They bought the
And the
property.
head of school and his wife are gonna live there, but they're also gonna do classes there.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
gonna have a walking
It's-
trail there. so-
Yeah.
Oh,
It
so
should
that's
be-
why they need a
Yeah.
permit.
It's,
then.
yes,
That's
Yeah.
they're changing the use of the land.
what they said. All right, that makes sense. And there was another one, I think. There was the
That was,
Alexander,
yeah,
we talked about that one.
right,
And there's Upton Lake, and
and that's it.
that's probably it then.
Yep, that was it. All right, so moving on, but in the same theme of the wetlands, we have the Beaver Dam breach on Dayheim. And I don't know.
Well, I'll give you some good news
Please,
about
yeah,
it.
please tell us.
The beavers have started, because we live on Dehaven.
Yeah, the
The
beavers.
beavers have started building back, and they're going fast and
Furious.
furious.
Which
Love
they
it.
will
And
do.
my son actually
Yeah.
on the way to school is like, let's see how the water is. He's like, Mom,
All right.
there's more water.
So
Yeah.
they didn't kill the beavers.
No.
They normally do, that's odd.
They just changed.
And
the
I
law,
actually
which is
saw
still
one.
illegal.
I saw
Yeah.
one of the beavers in Shaw Brook when I was walking my dog one
Yeah.
day. So the beavers have not gone away.
Yeah, so James Finley went to go and investigate as well, and he said there was still evidence of the beaver. No one had seen them at that point, but they were, and now we see that they
Last
have.
week I saw him in Shaw Brook.
Yeah. So the thing is there was the Dayheim owner, property owner, Marty did have a nuisance permit in the past, whether she had a current one or not. Once you use a nuisance permit, it is then invalid.
She didn't do it. The reason why I know that is because I saw her that day and she was all
Okay,
upset.
so I have an email from the fur bearer biologist Kevin Clark, who Genevieve contacted and said there was a permit for it, for the dam to be breached, and according to the complainant, the dam was less than 2 years old, and another dam had been breached in 2017, which she had a permit for, and this new dam was the replacement with, from that. The beavers don't care where they put them, they do it. And that the claim was it was causing flooding damage on the property, driveway, and etc.
Whose property?
That's Marty's property. That's who has the permit. You can't have a permit for somebody else's property.
Okay, but somebody else must have done it then, because when I saw Marty that day.
Correct.
She was all.
Correct. So that's where
Had her hair on fire.
and they say no, so nothing unlawful about this activity, but she's not the one who did it.
No.
She may have a permit for it. She didn't have anyone do it.
No.
Someone has criminally trespassed and damaged this dam.
Yeah.
So that's where the problem is.
Has she reported that though?
Yes. Frank Bartow, who lives on Bangle, apparently saw the car and saw two guys walking across the property. And clearly the guys knew what they were doing was wrong, because it happened at like 5:45.
It was very early in the
But
morning.
DEC knows this happened and they know it's not her. It seems like that's
It's very
Could be a legal
it's
issue.
contradictory, because she says she has no idea and they're saying she has idea. So who's right?
She wanted it, she applied for a permit, she received a
From
permit.
6
but now
years
she's-
ago.
But they're saying that she has it for now. And they're saying she asked to breach the dam currently. That's what this email is about. I'm still trying to get a hold of this person, because this is through
Getting a hold of the person at DEC or Marty?
the biologist, this fur bearer, a biologist.
Huh.
Because,
She was
nothing
super
is,
upset.
if you were the one that did it, I mean, no, I'm not saying that Marty did it. I'm saying, but if you were the one that did it,
Yeah.
and that happened and you had that backlash,
Yeah.
would you say you were upset and that you didn't do it?
No, she stopped
So-
me all on her own.
No, I know. And she
Yeah.
has put up security cameras and
Yeah.
signs and everything
Yeah.
since. So I 100% at this moment believe what she's saying.
Yeah, yeah,
I also believe it's a different landowner that came on and destroyed it.
yeah.
So whether someone has a DEC nuisance permit or not, there are several stages of licensing that you have to get through the state, and then also our local permit. So we supersede anything that the DEC even gives
Is
them.
it true that I was told that so many hundreds of thousands of gallons of water were released that it overwhelmed the water treatment system in the village and
No.
contaminated?
No.
No.
So
Okay, thank you.
I asked Mike, and he said that, Mike, report, please.
I spoke to Scott about 24 hours after I got the first report of what do we do from Margaret. And Scott was at the water treatment plant the day after this had happened and noticed a rise in the stream levels. That obviously that there was a lot more water than normal, but that he didn't indicate to me or to Tim that there was any damage done to it.
Okay, great. So there was no contamination.
So, no.
Because that was,
knowledge.
That was
the
the-
scuttlebutt.
Right, and that would, if you needed to say
You
something,
would,
that
you would
would,
think if there was a
Yeah.
massive inflow of water, something would have damaged something, but apparent.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a confirmation or gone down to the plant to make sure, but it doesn't appear that there's damage at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
So that seems to be good.
That would be after the fact. One of the things that bothers me personally
Hmm.
is that we, the town, have to be notified in some way that this is happening. So if something is going on in a stream, and then the zoning administrator or whomever can look at this and say, yes, you need a permit, or no, there's no reason to get a permit. But our wetlands law should be honored.
Oh, great, totally.
And that's what happens with people. They go in and say, I want to do this. And somebody says, no, you don't need a permit for that. And then it's done. But they know that they have to get the permit.
Mhm.
And that we should know that this activity is taking place
Mhm.
so that we can evaluate it.
Right.
Whoever did this apparently just did this, as far as I hear what
Correct.
everybody's saying.
No one in the town knew this was happening.
And there are penalties for that.
Right.
Well, and they obviously knew it was wrong because they did it.
They did it at a time that nobody would be aware of it.
Yeah.
Well,
That
that's why
actually was a
there's
leak in the paper.
a
Too bad I
fine
walked down the road.
associated with this.
So James has gone out, he has investigated, he is sending letters out of explaining the wetlands law. So,
Who gets the letters?
All the neighbors?
all the neighbors, all the landowners that are affected by that swamp, I believe.
So everybody
So
who's
everyone who
on the
touches-
swamp, as well as anybody who owns property, because there are people who own property on the wetland who don't live in that property.
Right. I'm pretty sure that is what, I will double check with him, but that is what we discussed.
I'd be curious to find out if we're getting a letter, considering the fact that we're supposed to be the supervisory municipality that's involved. In other words, like, it's the way the law that I read it was written in '88. It says that complaints or violations of the law should be reported to Albany, and that's part of.
That's your watershed.
That's our
That's not,
Right.
watershed. So
that's
we-
not the town wetlands law.
Right. So that's the source protection law.
Right.
So I would be curious to find out why, just as a matter of dotting the i's and crossing
Yeah.
the t's, why the officer wouldn't say, oh, by the way, there was an incident in your watershed and this is how it was handled and whatever, because technically we're supposed to be responsible for reporting this.
So there's two jurisdictions. There's one for the village watershed, for you guys in particular. And then there's the wetlands law jurisdiction, which is for everybody, regardless of if your watershed was there or not.
Right.
So that's the conundrum. How do we get everybody to be aware of this, that you are responsible? I remember Andrew Spence at the planning board meeting recently, very recently, said that the owner is responsible for mistakes. It's not the town who's responsible. The owner is supposed to be aware somehow if they do something wrong, and then they're liable. It's their problem if they don't know the law. And the planning board, if I recall correctly, was Leslie on it. I think she was there at the time.
Yeah.
Passed that, they accepted that.
They agreed, yes.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, because it's like if you're
Yeah.
going 55 and a 35,
Yeah, you know.
it's not posted, you're supposed to know.
Right.
You're an adult.
And in this case, the NRI that we're currently trying to update is going to bring a broader education level of all of this to the public. And I think that's a part of what we need to be doing is continuously educating people. We want people to be able to do with their lands what
Of course.
what they want if it's within our laws, our
Yeah.
code. And, and they need to be educated what's right and wrong. So
Makes sense.
that's,
What's the expression, ignorance of the law is no excuse?
no, it's no.
Like
yeah,
able to use that
it's-
myself
yeah,
sometime.
Yeah, but, so that's where we are.
And didn't we have that with the guy in Mabbittsville with the market there, the deli, and he did
Yes.
stuff like that, try to claim that he didn't
Yes.
know the law, and then
Yes.
whoever was
It was
involved
me.
in that held
It was
him
me.
responsible, they forgave him, I think, at
Oh.
that moment.
Is it worth
Well, I don't
following
think
up
they
with Frank?
really, I don't think they have actually forgiven him.
Is it worth following up with Frank Bartow to see if he knows who did it, or? is it not?
So several neighbors said that there were footprints from another property.
Mhm.
So that they followed, it looked like someone followed the stream down to see where the dam was. And then,
Okay.
went to break the dam.
Gotcha. Okay,
So that's just hearsay. So how do you prove who did it?
right.
Who'd they break it up with? Really?
They must have done it by hand. And then there's a possibility that they just did it right and then it just broke. Like they might have just messed up.
I heard explosion.
Well, everyone said,
Maybe
everyone
it wasn't, okay.
If there
Everyone
was
said
an
it was a-
explosion, I would have heard it. 'cause
Yeah,
I was
I
up
think
doing
the
Wordle.
whole of Mabbittsville would have heard it, but
Yeah.
I really think that was just a way of,
I'll text to you the next time.
I think it
How's
was,
spelling bee?
yeah. So
Voltage.
there's really nothing that we can do at
Lavage.
this point. It's just education and follow-up. Unless anyone has any suggestions on how to fix the problems for future, or even on this. Anyway.
I think it would be.
Tripwires.
Apparently she's got cameras now.
She
I
does
don't
have
think-
cameras.
I don't think preventative wise you can fix that problem, but I think it was interesting that you contacted me and said, what do we do about this? The fact that I've been on the board, this board, and I had to go back in my notes, even come up with the dispatch number.
Yeah,
It's like this,
What do you
people
do?
have asked in the past, what happens if there's a problem? It's like, well, you have to call the DEC.
yeah, it was a,
But
Well, my
A
husband
chain.
actually called the DEC and he said, if somebody doesn't come and investigate this immediately, I'm going to call the Poughkeepsie Journal. Guess
They
what?
were there.
The DEC came that evening.
so, but I guess the long and the short of it is nature is repairing the problem.
Quickly.
Yeah. All right. So onward. The Birds and the Bees Protection Act that was forwarded. Thank you, David and Nan.
Yes.
thought
And
I'd
I
seen-
forwarded that to a bunch of people
I
as
thought I had
well.
seen it from another location as well, and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't. And it was just that morning. This is how my days are going right now, because I think I see things
Yes,
and I
thank you
don't.
for forwarding that.
And I don't know, are you,
I forwarded that to a bunch of people as
and then
well.
but you also wrote in or called?
Oh, yeah,
I did.
I emailed.
I
Did you?
called.
Good.
So I called too. The Millbrook Garden Club and garden clubs throughout New York State have been very active in trying to get this bill passed. And
Yeah.
doing a lot of public education on how bad neonics are and how this is really a leading edge bill. Because if it can pass in New York, that will go a long way toward encouraging other states to pass similar
Mhm.
laws. So it will actually have a national effect if we can get this passed in New York. It has passed the Assembly. The problem right now is it is stuck in the Senate Environmental Committee, and Senator Michelle Hinchy is on that committee. So it's really anything that could be done to persuade her to vote the bill out would be a good thing. The thinking is that she may be getting pressure from agricultural interests. The problem is that seeds for a lot of key crops are treated in advance with these neonic pesticides, and as a result, the farmers don't have to spray, but the pesticides seep into the soil and end up our water supply and end up killing aquatic insects, et cetera, et cetera. It'd be great if Walt were here. I know I've heard him talk in the past
Yeah.
about this class of pesticides as being particularly bad. So I guess the question that we started to talk about in email is whether or not that the CAC could write Senator Hinchy
Right.
a letter. And as citizens, of course, we all can. I just don't know, what the rules are with a CAC writing to a state senator actively taking a position on a bill, asking her to support it. Is Leslie still on?
Yeah, she's still there.
Leslie?
She's just got to find her button to let her speak. Leslie?
Margaret knows me so well. That's correct. Can you just ask me that one more time?
So Leslie, there's a bill that the CAC wants to write a letter asking Senator Michelle Hinchy to support a particular piece of state legislation. Is that something that the CAC can do? Because we've been directed in the past not to engage in advocacy. However, this isn't advocacy with respect to local laws. This is advocacy with respect to a pending state law.
I would say I would say yes to that because and Margaret, what was the thing that I just pull this up right now that Mary Alex sent us today, which was
Oh,
suggesting that would be an appropriate thing. It might even actually be the same. No, this is different, but it's another. It's
No,
a
that was
state
something
issue
different.
regarding solid waste, and I'll forward this to Margaret. You've got it on your phone, but I'll send it to you
I do.
again, just so it's the top of the box. But Margaret and I went to a training on Friday with the Pace Land Use Law Center, and it was interesting. They acknowledged, that a lot of CACs are advisory and not kind of a voting board, but they also recognize the importance of CACs and how they need to be part of the conversation and how that advisory role is critical in guiding town policy. So I think absolutely would be my response, Pam, to that for sure. I feel very comfortable saying that after hearing Tiffany Zazula talk about the CAC's role. Margaret, would you agree with that?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, basically there are drafts of letters to Hinchy
Yeah,
circulating.
so it'd be just easy enough to
cut and paste. So I can get that out to
That would be
everybody's
lovely.
review, and we can get that out. Leslie, while we have you, one thing I wanted to make sure is that we, do you know if our comments on the zoning code actually made it to the ZBA? Do we know that?
Your comments
I do not know
made
the
it
answer.
to me, and then they've all been put together in a document. Your comments with the planning board's comments. The ZBA did not submit
good.
comments, and that is being given.
Okay.
And the way that we've discussed moving forward, and there's a workshop meeting for the town board, which is posted on the website on May 15th, where we're going to sort of talk about next steps. Because we have, and we talked about this at the last town board meeting, because we have funding that's been specifically directed by residents to the hospitality, to legislating around hospitality, which also includes short-term rentals. It includes everything that was included in the report. We are going to address that first and address that with those funds, so the effort is not conflated. In addition to that, we're going to make the other, look at all the other changes. We just felt that it might take longer. Like, for example, if the town board wants to entertain, I'm just using this as an example, a noise ordinance, that's going to require a lot of public hearings, a lot of time. And we don't want to hold up the hospitality legislation, which is going to take 4 to 6 months in its own right. But when you have people who are waiting on that decision-making to begin projects, it just doesn't seem fair. But the bigger issue is the funding and making sure that we have them separated, which was not the way we thought we would handle it initially. But Nan, in speaking with Nan and Nan thinking about it further, that's the way it made the most sense. So we have all the stuff that you all submitted. We have the stuff which was terrific. We have the stuff that the planning board submitted, which also includes comments from Aaron Warner at AKRF and comments from Sarah Wilson, who was counsel for a while as we went through some of those for about a year while she was actually making a list for us. So we will get to that for sure. But I think the way we're going to do it is treat those suggestions and recommendations separately from the hospitality report, because that's kind of a clearer directive with public buy-in, right, and public support, because that had its own process. Whereas the other recommendations, we may need to have, some things are very straightforward. Some things might be new concepts. Like, again, I go to the noise ordinance as an example that we might want to consider.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. That's really
Thank
helpful.
you, Leslie. All right, so you'll
Yeah, so I'll get that out
do
tomorrow.
that. Thank you.
Very-
And sorry, moving on to seminars and webinars. Thank you, David and Nan, for keeping us updated on all the things going on. Thank you for forwarding us the historic resource survey that in remembrance of Stephanie Maury, which was very nice to read and very impressive. All of that, what she did.
Nice lady.
Very nice lady she was, and missed. Left behind a nice legacy for the town. Carrie has a May 11th, Stressed Out Soils webinar for anybody who will be around that can see that if they've got time. And then I don't think there's anything else.
I have
Oh,
something.
you have the TMIC.
I have.
Could you update us on that lovely meeting that you are
Yes, I
now
can.
doing for me? That is awesome.
10 Mile River Collaborative meeting was on the 24th of April. People from DLC, from the Armenia Northeast and Dover CACs were there, Salisbury Land Association Land Trust, the Hudson Highlands Land Trust, CSC coordinator from Riverton Northeast, Connecticut DP, Dover CSC, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there's lots of, and did they do it live and Zoom this time?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, did you do the Zoom portion or did you
I
go
went
live?
to
You
Armenia
went,
Town
was
Hall.
it nice?
It was fine, yeah.
Good.
She brought
I'm
nice
glad.
chocolate chip cookies, which I didn't eat.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to eat stuff like that.
Well, that was good though that they did it. They wanted to try to do it in person, so I'm glad they
They
did
were
that.
very nice.
Yeah.
So there's a Hudson Highlands Conservation Act. It was enacted in 2004 by the feds. Fish and Wildlife has final say on the updates, etc. It's water quality based on ecoregions and geology. So this encompasses Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. New York State extends from Pauling to Connecticut, the entire northwest corner included, and should be extended in New York State north of Pauling, which they're going to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Provides money for conservation each year, $10 million. DEC and Parks Department get the funds. There are 5 conservation objectives: clean drinking water, agriculture, cultural recreation, forests, and I didn't get the 5th one. The act was reauthorized last year, so it's good through 2029. They're going to update of signs and mapping for how that area will be included in the Highlands region. They're going to authorize the expansion of the Highlands region, because obviously the Hudson Highlands is like west of us. And money for projects that qualify. We're going to so basically the town passes a resolution saying they want to be included, and it goes to the Department of Environmental Conservation, and Fish and Wildlife decides if the town qualifies, which means the town can qualify for federal funds. And there was some conversation among all the people in the meeting that maybe all the municipalities could come together to petition to do it together. For instance, the 10 Mile River Collaborative could potentially do it together for all of us.
Right.
So the first step is the town passes a resolution to be part of it. And there's nothing binding about passing that resolution. So anyhow, that's the deal.
Thank
And the
you.
next meeting, it's quarterly, so the next meeting
Yeah.
will be in August, so I'll have to zoom in because I'll be away.
Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for taking
Happy
it
to
on.
do it.
Yeah, no,
Everybody
it's,
was really nice.
yeah, no, they seemed nice when I got to sit in, but it's
Mhm.
too much in my head. I can't do any more.
Fair enough.
I can't do any more.
I hope that was a decent recap.
That's very good recap.
Because I was
Thank you.
wasn't sure what exactly to include. But.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually affect us a whole lot.
No, but
But
if we do come together as municipalities, then
Correct.
I will raise my hand.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's everything that touches us is a part of us, even though we're
sure.
not completely
And we have waterways,
correct. And ours go into theirs.
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, a lot of times we're worried about the ones above us, but sometimes we have to be
You're
considerate of
correct.
who's below us.
Yes.
That would be Pauling.
Yes, I know.
Like the Wappinger Creek and
Yeah,
Shawbrook.
that's what we did in our training the other day was Wappingers Creek.
Oh, I just wanted to note that I did attend the Conserving Nature is Climate Smart webinar on April 25.
Well done.
But it was not, I mean, it turned out the focus was really on providing an overview of the Climate Smart Communities program, and not so much on CAC stuff. It was more about, so I kind of felt like we knew already a lot of what they had to say. What was different about it was that they reviewed New Paltz as a case study of a community that's done a tremendous amount of work with a lot of resources. It just seemed like a much bigger municipality, and they somehow were able to get a lot more funding to get a lot more done. But they also had been at this for a lot longer than we have too. So I think that was the takeaway, is that is that, it can take a lot of time, but, once the momentum gets going,
Right.
that's helpful. And there's a new publication that the DEC just issued called Best Practices for Adopting Conservation Inventories and Plans. And this is really, it's full of legal tips on how to make your NRI and similar documents more enforceable from a legal perspective. So when it comes time to, get to the point of putting resolutions together for a lot of the work that you're doing, this document will be really helpful. Because if you've got a town attorney who perhaps might want to water down some language, this will give you lots of tools to make it stronger. So it's not just us drafting against somebody else. It's actually the DEC saying this is a best practice. So it could really be helpful down the road. Definitely mark this one. It was a good one.
Okay. And did you have a follow-up link to a video or anything of that?
Of the April one?
Yeah.
It was in our email.
Oh,
Did you forward it to us?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
perfect.
did.
I don't think I've seen that one. I saw yours. Thank you for forwarding yours. I watched that at 5 o'clock in the morning the other day.
It also said, click here to.
Oh, okay,
download
perfect.
PDFs.
Okay.
And I think you can just.
Perfect.
Flip through that.
Yep, that's great. And that is so helpful for the people who do actually go and do it. Thank you for sharing it, because if we can't do it live, it's nice to go and review it later. Anything else in the open questions, comments, or concerns?
Well, I'd like to say I saw the No Mow May advertisement on the town website. It looked very nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. We did actually just use last year's.
Okay, great.
It was so much easier just to link it straight in.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, I was just like,
And
you know
also
what?
then
Why?
it also creates like people will recognize
Nice,
it.
is it the same thing? And exactly. So yes, thanks. I'm glad someone saw it. A lot of people out there mowing, so it's not working.
They also said Lomo May.
Ah, I like that low mow
I
May.
mean, we just mowed today, but we left part of the yard.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
all
that's
you
what
have
we
to
do.
is
That's what we
leave parts of
do.
your yard.
Yeah, or we leave the
Yeah.
edge, or we do strips, or, so it's good. As long as there's something out there for the,
With the early spring, there's a lot of stuff out there for them to eat this year
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah.
Which is really.
I know Ruby's has an amazing amount of dandelions. So, which is nice. All right, anything else? No? Good?
I think we need to thank Margaret for her cookies.
Oh, sorry. Good. Oh, well, thank you for actually eating my
Did I
cookies
did I
tonight.
miss cookie night? Margaret, I may have to come by the store tomorrow.
You did, but yes, come by. There'll be more. Thank you for zooming in, Leslie.
Thanks
Can
for
I have
having
a
me,
motion?
everybody.
Motion to close.
Motion.
Elizabeth.
Close.
Second, Howard.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye, good night. Thank you. Oh,
Good night and
next
good
meeting
evening.
is June 7th, 6th.
will not be here.
All right, that's heads up in
I have a
advance.
tennis match.
Oh, good for you.